Hey brothers and sisters, back to finish up on the War Scrolls. And again, I just grabbed this, sat down, turned my camera on, and I'm going to rely on the notes that I made. And I know I kind of stumbled through the first part, but it really isn't a deep study. I just wanted to share it with you for anybody who might be interested in it. So we finished on page 11, so we've only got 7 pages left. Hopefully we'll get through pretty fast. I don't know the exact sentence I finished on, so we'll go back here just to pick up, maybe not because it's a long paragraph. Woo! Okay, and make for yourself an everlasting name. So we know that that was daughter Israel, who came to earth to make an everlasting name for herself. And because I didn't do this, because we were on the tail end, let's do it now where it says it. It's actually in Isaiah 63, I believe, if I have it correct. So into Isaiah we go. Okay, Isaiah 63. It is right here. 63. Okay. And instead of using glasses over my eyeballs, I tend to use a magnifying glass. And it was on the tail end. It said it, I believe. It may be 64, so I may have told you the wrong chapter. No, I'm right. 63, and we'll start at verse 11. Then she, our mother, remembered the days of old, Moses and her people, saying, and Moses here, I question, because it means drawn out of the waters, right? So the one drawn out of the waters, and her people saying, where is she that brought them up out of the sea? We've looked at that. With the shepherd of her flock. Where is she that put her Holy Spirit within him? All right, so she did put her spirit within her shepherd at this point, called Moses, the one she chose, right? That led them by the right hand of Moses with her glorious arm, dividing the water before them, to make herself an everlasting name. Well, that was daughter Israel. The daughters of Israel were here to make an everlasting name for themselves. So we get that here, to make for yourself an everlasting name among the people. The wars, and to show yourself great and holy before the remnant of the nation. So we're seeing a reason. And what does it say in, so reconciliation would have the idea of war behind it, really. To reconcile the nations back. And that would take a great battle to do that, it would. And we understand that battle for Israel, Isaiah 40, it says, tell Israel that her warfare is ended, right? That she has received double for her sins. So going into war for her meant going in, carrying a burden, and receiving unto herself all the things that come by way of bearing that burden, kind of in the sense of going to war. So tell her that her warfare is ended, right? So we see that in Isaiah 40, and that she has received double for all her sins. But there's another war, going on in the spiritual realm, that she is greatly a part of, that gets ignored here in the physical realm, because they won't go in and study the eschatological view, truly, if you're looking into the spiritual realm on things. So the wars, and to show yourself great and holy before the remnant of the nations, so that they may know that you are God. And she was God. When you carry out judgments on Gog, so where do we get Gog? Isn't that Ezekiel 37:38, I think, one of those chapters, Gog and Magog, in that great battle that plays out on the mountains of Israel, where the men eventually turn swords against each other. They go at first and they're actually in covenant with one another, and then eventually over time their swords begin to turn upon one another, which may be actually what's in view to some degree right now today. Their swords are actually turning upon one another as they've developed these various theological perspectives throughout the world. So that may be that promise being fulfilled at this very moment. So there's perspectives to be taken on this. When you carry out judgments on Gog and all his company that are assembled about us. Blank. So there's been blanks here all along. For you will do battle against them from the heavens, blank, upon them for confusion. So again, we've seen that the Lord 136, which is daughter Israel's number, daughter Zion's number, had a day of confusion. It was a confusing day for the Lord when she had to watch the glory, her daughters of Israel, being cast down. And we get that understanding in Isaiah 22. Again, because I'm in Isaiah, let's go there. Isaiah 22. Isaiah 22, it was verse 5, right? For it is a day of trouble. Where's my magnifying glass? For it is a day of trouble and of treading down and of perplexity. It says by, but some translation says of a day of perplexity for the Lord, and that's 136, daughter Israel's number. The God of hosts in the valley of vision, breaking down the walls and of crying to the mountains. Now we saw them going up to their rooftops in this chapter, Isaiah 22, and they were bowing down to the hosts of heaven. So again, there's a great understanding there to be had, which we've looked at and we've studied. So they were bowing down to others, and they were no longer relying on the Lord, 136, to deliver them from the great battles that was going to behead in Israel. They were now beginning to rely on gods that their forefathers had never been afraid of. And we're told that through the scriptures. For you will do battle against them from the heavens, upon them for confusion, blank. For you have a multitude of holy ones. Well, the holy ones is her called out ones, her set apart. That's what makes you holy. You become very much set apart from the harlotry that's been taught to the women and men of this world to bow down to a religious idol called Baal, really, but they call it Jesus as well. Well, we know that there probably was a man who died upholding her law in his mouth, her commandments, and that was known as Joshua in the Old Testament. Now, the New Testament, we understand, they were still at work, and they continued to build this idol up of a man as your husband, bridegroom, Lord, and master who created all things, which is the idol that you find standing in Daniel chapter 2 and 3, which we've discussed how every successive kingdom of this world has continued to build on this religious lie of a man as your Lord and God, so that women will bow to their husbands and do whatever he wants her to do. Because especially if you think that it's godly and it comes from God and not man himself, which it is identified as doing, their wicked imaginations, their devices and scheming. And when you get a handle on that word devices, it does mean their imaginations and their wicked scheming and planning. And it was the men of Baal. Baal is the god that you keep coming back, this false god. And Baal is just simply another name for your husband who wanted to rule over you. And he really worked at coming up with a nifty little plan that would really build him up as Lord and God. And it has led to a false covenant in the land. That's why the death is here. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. For anybody who has their eyes open, and that is again why you are called a holy one, and you are being set apart. You are a set apart, holy, sanctified group. When you begin to turn back, return, O Shulamite, you turn back to the truth of who God is, who the living one is, who can give life, and you are set apart, you are sanctified by that truth, you are. And meanwhile, you have this other group who is in total opposition to that whole understanding. And that is why you are called a holy one. She does set you apart. You are a divine selection according to Romans chapter 11. And again, when it says, if the casting away of them shall be the reconciling of the world. So we see that term reconciling in the context of almost being at war. a reconciliation will be made. So if the casting away of them is the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be? Finally, the receiving of these sanctified ones, holy ones, with the truth, the water on their tongues, once again being gave back to you in covenant as the light of the world to lead you out of the lie. What shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? So we're really beginning to understand who we are in God. I know I'm beginning to get a much better picture. Perhaps in one of the early ones, I don't know. This is a big world. It's close to 8 billion people on this world. I don't know. There's certainly people out there, maybe women, speaking about this covenant, and you just don't hear it. You just don't know it. And certainly the masses that's in charge of the law system currently right now of the wicked covenant, they're certainly not going to make us mainstream. They're certainly not going to do that. They don't want to do that. They don't want us being heard. So they're, of course, going to do everything they can to really staunch that flow of fresh water that may be trying to flow out and cleanse the world with the truth of the Spirit of God. So, for you have a multitude of holy ones in the heavens. Now, we discussed how this is the heavens, because when we leave this life, it's akin to being reborn of the dust of the earth, but only when you are one of these holy ones, sanctified and set apart, because you're going into battle, and only when you stand up for your children, then are you considered one of these holy ones in the heavens, and the host of angels in your exalted dwelling to praise your name. So there's also a host of angels there as well, in your exalted dwelling to praise your name. So whose house got torn down? Well, we know it was daughter Israel's house that got torn down. We know that. And that was identified and called the house in the forest of Lebanon. And so our studies, of course, took us to involving the study in this chapter, Isaiah 22, along with 1 Kings chapter 11, Genesis 49, verses 23-24, really looking at Joseph's blessings there and the archers that shot at these scions, these female scions called daughters there. And a couple other passages as well in our study. So we really did come to understand what the key of David was including, what it was involving, and how the key of Solomon was in total opposition to that. So the chosen ones of the holy people you have established for yourself in a community. Again, a community has this idea of set apart. They were very much a set apart village that you see in Psalm 68, who published the word. They were responsible in publishing the word throughout Israel, is what we understand. And we see this congregation of women that met in the north that's really shown us in Psalm 68, and we have thoroughly discussed that one. So the number or the book of the names of all their hosts is with you in your holy dwelling, and they dwell with her. They're considered the holy vessels, the holy, the vessels. Again, you see it in Isaiah 22 here. Let me see if I can just hit it to get it right. Sorry about that noise. It's two metal things banging together. But what does it say? Okay, let's keep going here. I believe it's towards the end of the chapter. There are issues, all vessels of small quantity, from the vessels of cups even to all the vessels of flagons. So it's allegorical to the precious ones of the house of the Lord. These are the daughters called these precious vessels and cups. Let me see, verse 24, and they shall hang upon her all the glory of her mother's house, the offspring. That's children in the issue. That's children, her children. It's not a man. No, it's not a man. No matter how much you've been brainwashed and had hammered in your head, it's not a man that issues children and has children, and it's her, the offspring and the issue, all vessels of small quantity, from the vessels of cups even to all the vessels of flagon. So we see, and we also see the burden being cut away from her. This is the reestablishing of the original covenant of the house in the forest of Lebanon when she comes to dwell forever with her children. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, shall the nail that is fastened in a sure place be removed, and it will be cut down and fall, and the burden that was upon it shall be cut off, for the Lord hath spoken it. So finally, you will no longer be delivering children. You will no longer be bearing children in your womb, as they are all at this point considered to be in the grave until the resurrection. And so this is taking that into account, which we haven't discussed. Not at this point, and we're not going to, because we're looking at the War Scrolls. But we have in the past kind of looked at this. It's something new to me that I've been looking into. And because I'm coming to the end of the covenant, I don't think it really needs discussing. I did make some, very few, I felt, minor mistakes, and certainly the ones that I did make. Anybody who's been understanding the covenant and the way that we've been going with it, I don't think I need to correct every mistake that I make, because you're going to be there and you're going to be going, well, that's not right. It really is this. So, you know what I mean. And you're not going to agree with everything I have to say anyway, are you? But for the most part, the Bible's going to validate what the original covenant of the daughter Israel really was to look like. And it says, when we went into bondage under the law, we began to travail heavily, carrying a burden upon us. And that was the deliverance of the children. And so we understand now what the real covenant is going to look like. But we had to go into the crucible, as we understood with God. We have to do this. And as part of our training, as part of our testing. So, where was we? So the number or the books of the names of all their hosts is with you in your holy dwelling, and the number of the holy ones in the abode of your holy mercies of blessing, blank. And your covenant of peace you engraved for them with a stylus of life, in order to reign over them for all time, commissioning the hosts of your elect by their thousands and tens of thousands together with your holy ones and your angels, and directing them in battle so as to condemn the earthly adversaries by trial with your judgment, with the elect of heaven, and they shall prevail. I don't think I'm going to explain that, because that's what we've looked at, right? That's everything in what we have studied over the course of this channel. And we're a little bit over 4 years. We may end up going 4 years, 4 months. I'm not sure. Because I do like to give it a little bit of time for the videos before I release the next one. So how long these will stay up to get a few counts on them, I'm not sure, before I post the next part and then the next part. But we know I'm coming up done, and we have discussed thoroughly how this number of 10,000 and thousands, and that's going to take us back to the blessings of Ephraim's horns, gathering the peoples together in Manasseh. It says the tens of thousands of Ephraim and the thousands of Manasseh. And that has to do with Asaph, your gatherer, truly is what it has to do with, which then links us back, of course, as we've discussed multiple times, ago. So there we go. I don't think I really need to go in depth. And you, O God, are awesome in the glory of your dominion, her dominion. And the company of your holy ones is in our midst for eternal support. We shall direct our contempt at kings, derisions and disdain at mighty men of valor, because they use that image to build themselves up. Don't worry, we're the men. We'll protect you, that mighty man of valor. They use that because they stripped our power away from us. And so you will direct your contempt at king. What kings? Right? What kings? The same ones that had you in derision. Those are the kings you're going to direct your derision at. And rightfully so. They brought you down. Let our eyes look upon Zion. Let her be defiled. Where is this passage? Well, it's in Psalms 2, number 1. These are the kings that we want to be looking at in a very disdainful way. They don't deserve any honor. They really don't, because they tore her house down. And what did they do? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against her anointed ones, saying, let us break their bands, their commandments, their laws, right? Which isn't theirs, right? Ours, the gently flowing waters of Shiloh, that was hers. Hers was gentle. They were not oppressive. His are. His is violent. His is a beast system. His has no respect for her. And they teach it to one another, and then they band together in a web of lies when they begin to speak as if this comes from God, when it did not. So let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. They're not our mothers. Cords. It also has the idea of a umbilical cord. They didn't want them. So emit, the mothers of truth, right? To cast off the mothers is what they were doing. So we shall direct our contempt at kings, derision, and disdain at mighty men. For the Lord is holy, and the queen, not king. It says king. I've crossed that out. Queen of glory is with us together with the holy ones. Mighty, not men. I change this. Women. And a host of angels are with our commissioned forces. The hero of war is with our company, and the host of, not his, her, spirits is with our steps, right? Our God is with us. Our God is for us now. We're getting the truth. She's sanctifying us. She's purifying us. And so we got a blank here. As the clouds and as the mist covering the earth, and as a steady downpour shedding judgment on all her offsprings, her children, on her children. Not his, they're hers. They're her children. Rise up, O hero. I don't like the word hero, but some says her, oh. I heard another take on that. Now I can't remember it, but it's her. Rise up, it's got her in that word, hero. Rise up, O hero, take your captives. So we do speak of the ones who were took captives. It says she's going to free the ones who have been captured. What does it? Oh, I can't remember the chapter. But it says they have all gone into bondage, into prison. And so it's on her to free the captured ones, the ones that's been captured, the ones that will receive the word of truth, the true covenant. Those that don't want the covenant, those that fight against the covenant are going to be cut away. And that is why I believe the other covenant may well be in play and be allowed to be in play until that I think it may have something to do with what's called the millennial reign. And we know during the millennial reign, there is still a little bit of battling going on during that time. We're told of that. And definitely during that time, there's still going to be opposition, and that's got to be dealt with. And because you're not going to be allowed to oppose this covenant, you've had your freedom on it. You've had freedom to make your choice, and so you will be dealt with. So rise up, O here, take your captives, O glorious one, take your plunder. So we will beat and consecrate their gain unto the Lord of the whole earth. O you who do valiantly, lay your hand upon the neck of your enemies and your foot upon the back of the slain. Crush the nations, your adversaries, and may your sword, your word, devour guilty flesh. Sorry, but the lie they teach from the pulpit don't make an ounce of sense. And anybody who lacks the willingness to reason and open their eyes as to whether this makes sense, the truth is going to be revealed to those who are willing to open their eyes and have it revealed. Those who are walking in blind faith with their eyes closed shows that they have a stout heart. They have hardened their neck. They don't want to hear truth. They don't want to hear reasoning from God, from the holy ones. And they think they're smart because of it. They think, no, you're not going to break my faith down. Well, if you think God don't reason truth out and that you're not going to pay for making no sense whatsoever, and bringing and encouraging a lie in the earth, and that you don't got to pay for that. Wow. And it says her word's going to devour guilty flesh. Consume it. That's right, consume it right down. So fill your land with glory and your inheritance with blessing. An abundance of cattle in your fields, silver and gold and precious stones in your palaces. Oh, I don't know, I guess it says man, but it's not. Oh, Israel is what I think it should say. Oh, daughters of Israel. Rejoice greatly and shine with joyful songs, O Jerusalem. Rejoice, all your cities of Judah. Open your gates forever, that the wealth of the nations might be brought to you, and their kings shall serve you. So I don't know that should read Judah. I think it should say gates of this Israel. I know it says cities. I know Zion. Zion means the new branch. All right? Jerusalem means peace. It may not have this idea of a particularly set location. It has what it stands for, and that is the truth. So this new branch is going to stand for peace, and that peace comes by way of understanding the truth, not the religious lie of an idol. An idol will never save anybody. Only the truth can do that. All they that oppressed you shall bow down to you, and the dust of your feet they shall lick. O daughters of, and it does say daughters here. O daughters of my people, shout out with a voice of joy. Adorn yourself with ornaments of glory. Well, they are the glory. Rule over the kingdom of blank. No, I think that should say dominion. Rule over the kingdom of your dominion. That's what I think it should say. And Israel to reign eternally. So it really should be the daughters of Israel. They're going to reign eternally. And it does say daughters here at the very end here. O daughters of my people, shout out with a voice of joy. Adorn yourself with ornaments of glory and rule over the kingdom. You see? So blank them, the mighty, they got men, women of war, O Jerusalem, blank, be exalted above the heavens, O Lord, and let your glory be above the earth. So we know who that is. The blessings of the war recited by all the leaders after the victory. So, and then the chief priestesses, we went with priestesses on this because no men were allowed into the camps of these daughters of light. So we've got to kind of follow that rule of thumb and stand, her sisters, okay. And then the chief priestesses shall stand, her sisters, the priestesses, the Levites, and all the elders of the army. So I'm almost looking at this we keep hitting this number. We keep hitting two numbers, all right? And so let's clear this confusion up if we can. So she has 144,000 is what we're told. The Shulamite does in Song of Songs, for anybody who's been with me. So the Shulamite has this double camp of women. That's right. And so that breaks down to 72,000, right, this double camp, because we've understood that one camp is made up of 72,000. If we understand that she had priestesses in the north, all right, so the Levite priests here are priestesses in her northern kingdom, the 10 tribes of Israel. I know, we still got some numbers there to deal with. But that we're told that there is a double camp here that she gets. If we go to the idea that Joshua also had one army with him, that's 72,000. And he had his own priests, okay? Now, I know, it's still... So, she's called a queen, and he's called a kingly priest. So, is it possible she's also a queenly priestess, and he's a kingly priest? I don't know. We're looking at this. Now, we have this number that some people would sometimes reference. I would find it referenced over the last 10, 12 years that I've been in study. So if we put together 144, her double army, and his 72. So we come up with this number, 216, don't we? 216,000. So we had kept coming up with this. I kept seeing this number, right, 216. And this is something that I've thought about many times, that this is a possibility why that number 216,000 kept coming up. Because we got the Shelamites' double army, double camp, which is identified as the presence of God, the camp of Mahanaim. And then with Joshua, possibly the 72,000. Now with that, we get that number 216, and we've already talked about the number 216. And we know that in Hebrew, I believe, if I've got it right, if I've got the right number, in 216 meant light, I believe. I believe it does. Let's go and see if we can. There. Okay, so we have 216. We have that number right here. Illumination, or concrete luminary in every sense, including lightning and happiness, etc. Bright, clear, plus day, light, morning, sun. They have a masculine noun. On Bible Hub it says it's feminine. So maybe there's a reason there's some contention there. Maybe it's both. But here on the end it's feminine. Right, she's the firstborn of the kingdom. So a feminine noun meaning light. In a literal sense, it is used primarily to refer to light from heavenly bodies, but also for light itself. Okay, so you see we get that number 216 is a reference of light. So I'm just saying that it's possible, right? So these daughters is what's in view here. In this battle, the daughters of light are against the sons of darkness. Is how if you want to look at the numerology playing out here, the numbers that over time will pop up in front of your face, and so you think on them, and you come up with some possibilities. So, and then the chief priestesses shall stand, her sisters, the priestesses, the Levites, and all the elders of the army with her. They shall bless from their position the God of Israel and all her works of truth. And they shall curse Belial there and all the spirits of his forces. So if you punch in Strong's Hebrews, Belial, you'll come up with the meaning of sons of darkness or sons of worthlessness. And they shall say response. Blessed is the God of Israel for all, not his, her holy purpose and her works of truth. And blessed are those who serve her righteously, who know her by faith. And cursed is Belial for his contentious purpose. He had so much pride in his wicked heart. He couldn't receive the laws as the wife of the original covenant. And accursed for his reprehensible rule. That's what we have on earth today. And don't think that they aren't cunning enough to make it appear that we've got real liberty and freedom over here when we're still under bondage of a lie, a religious lie in law. So it just means that there's varying degrees of persecution. It means in some parts it's really, really nasty, and in some parts it's not quite so nasty, but it's still nasty. It's still there. So they're pretty good at their scheming. They're pretty good at their planning to make, oh, well, look, we've made some headways. No, they haven't. If we truly made headway, number one, human trafficking is considered to be the biggest business in the world right now going on. I forget the percentage of increase that they saw it have. And just because they sweep it under the rug and you don't hear about it, do you think they're going to, really promote that that's the biggest business going on right now, human trafficking in the world? And you think the world's gotten better? The world's gotten better under this religious lie. It's gotten a heck of a lot worse. But they're pretty clever because they've got their harlots, and when I say harlots, I'm talking male and female. under the religious lie of Baal, idol, of a man as your Lord and God, right? Promoting it, saying it's a good thing when it's tearing our whole world down, all right? So, and you can keep saying, well, no, we've been blessed, this, and this, because you ain't got your eyes open to it yet. You refuse to open your eyes to the deeper problems going on. You're no different than they are. You want to lift the rug up and you want to shove the whole problem under it, and you don't want to face it head on and look at it and go, what was God talking about? What was God telling us our real sin was? Right? No, they don't want to do that. That hurts their heads too much. And they certainly don't want to open their eyes because the light would truly blind them. And blessed are those who serve her righteously, who know her by faith. And cursed is Belial for his contentious purposes, and accursed for his reprehensible rule, and cursed are all the spirits of his lot for their wicked purpose. Accursed are they for all their filthy, dirty services. Well, the world's full of that filthy, dirty services, calling it righteousness. We're going to look at the true covenant of God and what it's truly supposed to be looking like. And it's not this perversion, this one of perversion and evilness and wickedness that we say is from God when it is not from God. For they are the lot of darkness, but the lot of God is light eternal. You are the God of our... I don't know what it says. Can I read the back here? See, I blacked it out, and I said in the last one I was a bad girl for doing it, because, wow, now I don't know what it said. Usually I don't do that, but I must have really got mad at what it was trying to say. You are the God of our... Oh, it says fathers. Yeah. You are the God of our fathers. No, you are the God of our mothers. They were to receive the mothers, and they didn't want them. You are only birthed into a new life by your mother, not by your father. So she is our God, and she is the God of our mothers. And she was, but they crucified, murdered is the idea, Lamentations 4:1. These precious stones that would have protected man, woman, right, from the lies and abusive system, the beast system of these sons of Belial and Baal and the harlots, male and female, bowing down to that lie. So, your name forever, for we are an eternal people. You made a covenant with our mothers, that's right, and will establish it for their seed throughout the ages of eternity. So this was the covenant that got rejected, through the mother, by the mother. And will establish it for their seed throughout the ages of eternity. In all the testimonies of your glory, there have been remembrance of your kindness in our midst, as an assistance to the remnant and the survivors for the sake of your covenant. So we got survivors there, which we've looked at. And I said, in some context, yes, you are reborn out of the dust of the earth, but in another sense, you are an actual branch from the original roots of the original Israel tree. A real original daughter that survived when they got cast out into the lands of the Gentiles. A lineage, multiple lineages from multiple mothers did manage to survive there, called the remnant, daughters of Israel, and the survivors. At the end here, we are chose out. So it appears that maybe there's more than what we realize. I don't know. But they're chose out. And these are the set apart ones. And so we get this clarified for us in Zephaniah chapter 3. We begin reading at verse 18. We get it clarified for us in Micah 4. And also in Jeremiah 30 and 31, if you want to go and look at that, because we have. Survivors for the sake of your covenant and to recount your works of truth. So that's what we're doing. We're recounting the true works of truth, not the lie, in the judgment of your wondrous strength. And you, O God, created us for yourself as an eternal people. It wasn't him that created us. He can't. If the tabernacle below reflects the one above, oh, you're using that out of context, just like you do every chance you get. An XY can't make an XX. Though an XX can make an XY and an XX. Yeah. And you could say no, yes. In the animal kingdom, they've just recently realized the Komodo dragon, I believe. My sister told me this. All right, so I haven't verified this, but I believe I did read it. She can herself create her own, not children, but perpetuate her species. The thing with when the female does it, she'll always have an XX. She'll always have daughters. That's why, when they say the sons of God or the sons of glory, it was the daughters. All right? So if he's imposing himself on her, then it is to embed his Y in there. So we could have that understanding. I've thought about that. But again, he can't do nothing alone. Sit him out there. Again, go read the Philosopher's Stone. And I read this somewhere else, that he stuck his sperm. Oh, it was the peacock angel. That's right. When they were determining, whose children these would be called, they took, this is the stupid part, they took his sperm and put it in a bottle. I can't remember exactly what it was. And they took one of her eggs and put it in a bottle. I don't need to put my egg in a bottle. It's in my womb. Right? I don't need to put it in anything. He does. But I don't. You see? You see where it doesn't make no sense? But anyway, his sperm grew a male and female child. My gosh. That amazing sperm can do it all. And her egg rotted. It was no good for nothing. It was all that sperm doing it all. Does that make sense to you folks? In the modern age where you're no longer a Philistine, thinking like a Philistine, with this archaic no knowledge, having the knowledge you have today, you are to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Does that make an ounce of sense to you? No. Because there's examples in the animal kingdom where females perpetuate life all by themselves. And it will be a female every time that they do this. A male? No. Sorry. It can't. Reason. Use your brain. Do I have to do it for you? I don't think so, unless you want to be a Philistine. Look up the definition of a Philistine. It says you are to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Start thinking. So, where were we? You, God, created us for yourself as an eternal people. And into the lot of light you cast us in accordance with your truth. So we step into the light, in a sense here, once we have our truth. And that light may not be this world that's in view. The light that she's talking about that we get stepped into as the divine selection is in that battle out there in the spiritual realm, right? So that may be the light that we get birthed out into, stepped into. Because in earth begins to give life to the dead. Right, she begins to do that. And only when you have that truth. So, you appointed the principles. I can't remember I don't know what they got here. Let me see if I can see it again. You appointed the, princes. Oh, prince. I've got principles, right? So you appointed the principals or princesses. I don't, even, from the time I was a child, I've heard the mock of princesses. Oh, a little princess. I've heard these mocks so much that I have such a negative feel of that word princesses, but the prince, not. I don't know why. The brainwashing is very thorough. It's very good. So you appointed the principles of light, is what I'm going to say, from of old to assist us. For in her lot, they've got his lot, are all sons, daughters of, righteousness. And all spirits of truth are in her dominion. Yeah, we got the powers of light against the powers of darkness. You yourself made Belial for the pit. So she stepped back and let us have our way, to teach us the truth in this crucible, so that when we come out of the crucible, that we have some understanding of how we are to behave and act, and it is not to bow to an idol of these sons of Belial and Baal and all this wickedness. So where was I? So you yourself made Belial for the pit, an angel of malevolence. His dominion is in darkness, and his counsel is to condemn and convict. And it is. That's what he's done to the daughters from the beginning. He's done nothing but condemn and convict us. When we live in a world, and you can trace the history from beginning to end, and even now here at the supposed end, they're removing the she pronoun. Well, hey, go after him. I have a statement to make. They've gone after the law of, abortion. And to me, to my way of thinking, and you don't have to agree and most probably will not agree, that is like putting the cart before the horse. If you truly wanted to do something about abortion, the number one things that you would go after would be pornography, would be prostitution, and would be rape and violence against women. And then you should think about going after the abortion law. But until you attack those ones first, which are men's rights, right? But no, it's so much easier to attack a woman's rights, right? And go after that and say, bad, 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 and leave the real problem alone and get the cart in front of the horse. Yeah. And that's what they're doing. And they're going to use this stuff to continue to remove the she pronoun and make it acceptable and all right when they're really looking to reestablish the sons of darkness again and put that yoke and that bondage on your neck, and you're going to let them do it because we ain't got the leaders that we need that can lead them in the pathways of truth. That's why you got to stand up. Start thinking, opening your eyeballs. No, don't concern me. Going home. My king's coming to get me. Well, good on you. So, where was I? Counsel is to condemn and convict. That's what they're doing. All the spirits of his lot, the angels of destruction, walk in accord with the rules of darkness. Yeah, they're so clever. For it is their only desire, but we in the lot of your truth. Rejoice in your mighty hand. We rejoice in your salvation and revel in your help and your peace, who is like you in strength. That's right. That's wisdom. Mother Wisdom, her strength is to reason. In that reasoning, if you have people who are willing to listen to that truth and aren't into violence and aren't into subjugation, then they're going to be willing to open their eyes. They're going to be willing to, transform the way that they think. If they truly want to be what they consider progressive. And we're not progressive in the negative way. We're progressive in a very positive way, which means really attacking the issues from a perspective of truth, and that makes sense, and not this foolishness that they've got shoved down your throat and got your eyes closed where you can't even, reason and make sense anymore. We're not making sense anymore in this world. We're not. And God ain't going to hear us until we start making some kind of sense. So who's like in your strength, O God of Israel, and yet your mighty hand is with the oppressed? And we know who's heavily oppressed, women and children. And who does that? Who does that? The wicked men, the wicked sons do that. What angel or principle is like you for your effectual support? So we're looking at a female principle here. Look up principle up in the New Testament. It'll speak of the principality and the powers that rule the world, the air, the spirit world. And we know that that's the harlot spirit exalted. And the harlot really has no power. It's man that's really doing all the ruling. And because he's exalted the harlot in his heart, saying, And she exalts him and saying, yes, you're God. You have every right to write the laws. And bad girl I am. And I need to bow to you. And I need to jump through every hoop that you ever put up. And she don't realize she's just playing his harlot and doing exactly what he wants her to do, not what God told her to do, which was not to bow to an idol, which is Baal, your husband, playing God. And they continued to build this idol up. I'm sorry, we've been over this. So your mighty hand with the oppressed. What angel or principle is like you? She was like God, your effectual support. For of old you appointed for yourself a day of great battle. That's the day of the Lord. Day of the Lord is about the controversy of Zion. We know that. So we've looked at what that is. I'm not going to say it again. To support truth and to destroy iniquity. How is iniquity shaped? It's shaped by the law. What is it that comes out of the stomach of it's wormwood? Wormwood is allegorical to the poisoned waters, the admixture of doctrine, a spiced wine, is also allegorical to the lying system and to the admixture. And the admixture is called a spiced wine. And that becomes very important in our understanding. So, to destroy iniquity means to destroy the lie of the law that's in the land right now. To bring darkness low and to lend might to light. So where's her mighty ones, her strong ones? The Azaz goat, female goat. It means strong. Yeah. The Azazel goat. Azaz is a female goat. And it means strong. Yeah, they even have strong behind female goat in brackets. So you are to be one of her strong ones. To lend might to the light, to the truth. And to blank for an eternal stand. I don't know, what would that be? And to blank for an eternal stand. And to persevere? I don't know. And to annihilate all the sons of darkness and bring to joy all the, it says, sons of light, daughters. You have not held the hurt of the daughter of my people. You've been too busy feeding yourselves. Yeah, that's what it says. They fed themselves plenty. They gave themselves permission to do whatever they wanted. But they have not healed the hurt of the daughter of my people. They've been too busy writing iniquity into the law, saying he, and the harlots go along with it. So, darkness and bring joy to all the daughters of light, blank, for you yourselves designated us for an appointed time. So she's appointed us. Blank, like the fire of her fury against the idols of Egypt. There we go. There we go. That's why the witnesses die in Sodom and Egypt. So that's your bull god Apis. Your bull god Apis is akin to Baal. It's another name for Baal, the bull god that they brought out of the land of Egypt. Yeah. So that's your solar calf deity. It's your bull that gets sacrificed on the altar to wash you sinful daughters' sin away. Yeah, only a man can do that. Only hubby can do that. Well, that's Baal. That's the idol of Baal. You ain't figured it out yet? Come on, surely you can do that much for yourselves. Surely. The blessing of the war recited by all the leaders in the morning before the battle. Okay. Just looking at my notes here off to the side. After they have withdrawn from the slain to enter the camp, all of them shall sing the hymn of return. So what hymn of return? Well, return, O Shulamite. What might we see when the camp of Mahanaim returns? Right? The glory. That's the glory, returning back to God. In the morning they shall wash their clothes, cleanse themselves of the blood of the sinful bodies. So again, we're looking at the cutting away here being permissible because of the blood covenant that he put in play. So she uses it to her benefit, is what it looks like if we're to understand what this is saying here. So in the morning they shall wash their clothes, cleanse themselves of the blood of the sinful bodies, and returned to the place where they had stood, where they had formed the battle line before the slain of the enemy fell. So we know this is real war, right? We're looking at a real war here. And what does it say in Isaiah 4:4? She says, I will wash away the filth first, and then the blood, right? Off of my daughters of Jerusalem, off of my daughters of peace. But they've had to go into battle against their enemy. I mean, there's no other way. You have to go into battle to take the enemy out of the land. That's just sense and reasoning. So to wash the blood of the sinful bodies and return to the place where they had stood, where they had formed the battle line before the slain of the enemy fell. There they shall all bless the God of Israel and joyously exalt her name together. It says his name, it's hers. They shall say in response, blessed is the God of Israel, who regards loving kindness for her covenant, and she does. She has to permit this to bring back righteousness in the land, and the appointed times of salvation for the people she redeems. She has called those who stumble unto wondrous accomplishments. Oh wow, did I stumble? I feel like I stumbled. And she has gathered a congregation of nations for annihilation without remnant, in order to raise up in judgment those whose hearts has melted, to open a mouth for the dumb, to sing God's mighty deeds, and to teach feeble hands to war. Yes, sir. Don't get any more feeble than that, do you? She gives those whose knees shake strength to stand. Boy, would mine need it. And strengthen those who have been smitten from the hips to the shoulder. Among the poor in spirit, blank, a hard heart, and by those whose ways is perfect, shall all wicked nations come to an end. So these daughters of Israel, whose ways is perfect before God, because you understand, she sees what's happened. She watched it all play out from beginning to end. So we are being purified in the crucible as her truth. So she's purifying her truth in this crucible, this testing, is what she's been doing. Where am I? And the poor in spirit, hard heart. But we are the remnant of your people. Blessed is your name. So the remnant daughters of Israel, blessed is your name, O God of loving kindness, the one who kept the covenant for our mothers. That's right. The daughter of Israel did that. She kept the covenant for our mothers. Throughout all our generations, you have made your mercies wondrous for the remnant of the people during the dominion of Belial. The fact that we've come out on the end holding the truth in our mouth, despite the testing that we've gone through, is proof that she's been there with us all along. That's what that's saying. With all the mysteries of his hatred, they have not led us astray from your covenant. Again, there we go. See, that's what I just said. His spirits of destruction you have driven away from us, right? She's brought us back to the truth that we began with, is what she's done with us daughters. And when the men of his dominion condemned themselves, you have preserved the lives of your redeemed. You raised up the fallen by your strength. You see, we were the fallen daughters. It goes back to the fact that we possess, 33% more genetic material just by possessing XX. And that also transcends into the spiritual realm. So I'm thinking that, to some degree it means us when we fell under the bondage of his religious lie and law, right? And it was permitted to happen to prove to us that she was with us, in the end, that she was there from beginning to end. That's why this has been permitted, to test us. Yeah, it's a testing. And wisdom. She's looking for, again, her wise daughters. To be able to reason the truth out makes you wise. It does. It really does. It's when you're a Philistine and your eyes are closed, you're just saying, oh, I'm going to walk in faith. It's not faith that you're walking in. You are to be renewed. You are to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, by understanding, and stop living in the 16th century when you were taught that a man's sperm inside of a bottle could give life to a male and a female. Yeah, that may be with the Philosopher's Stone, but I'm sure there was people who read it and go, really? Because that's what it means to have a Philistine way of thinking. You believe anything. But once you've come to being transformed in understanding things, how can you say that Father gives life? It doesn't make sense. None. And yet, how many of you will go, Father, 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 it ain't Mother? Well, it's Mother that bears you in her womb. It's Mother that births you. And if we're to understand it, she's the one that holds 33% more genetic material. And she, from understanding the Old Testament, represented the Spirit upon the earth. That they turned down and said, we don't want her in covenant. So, you can say I'm wrong. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong because you're not making sense and God makes sense. Wisdom. Jesus, fools love foolishness. If this isn't foolishness, what you believe in, then and you don't see it, then there is no help for you. There will be a cutting away coming for you in the next life. Yeah. So, with all the mysteries of his hatred, they didn't lead us astray. His spirits of destruction, you have driven away from us. And when the men of his dominion condemned themselves, you have preserved the lives of your redeemed. You raised up the fallen by your strength. But those who are great in height, you will cut down to humble them. Yeah. There you go. There you go, Babylon. And there is no rescuer for all their mighty men, and no place of refuge for their swift ones. So swift ones, we come to understand, meant a horse rider. Though if you go in and you look the word up for a horse, it has the idea of a bird, a swift bird of some type. So possibly you are looking also in a twofold way. The spiritual battle that's going to play out in the second heaven, which may take into and incorporate this idea of a swift one being some kind of a bird. So, what do the armies call their crafts that they put into the air? They call them birds, don't they? So, it kind of brings that idea into play. To their honored men you will return shame upon their heads. So it says, I forget how it says it, but what they try to put on you and did bring upon you is going to come back upon your own heads. So you will return shame, and all their vain existence shall be as, wow, I'm slow on this one, I gotta hurry up. Nothing will be as nothing. But we, your holy people, your holy daughters, shall praise your name for your works of truth. Because of your mighty deeds, we shall exalt your splendor in blank appointed times of eternity. At the beginning of day, at night, and at dawn, and at dusk. For your glorious purpose is great, and your wondrous mysteries are in your high heavens, to raise up those for yourself from the dust, and to humble those of the gods. So who's the gods? Male. Male, male, male. Who's of the dust? I hear a familiar spirit as of one who speaketh out of the dust of the earth. She's talking to Ariel. Ariel is the lioness of God, a name for Jerusalem, peace, the city of peace, where her daughters of Zion, her branches, Zionis, dwell. So it may not be so much of a location, but in the sense of a belief. The truth is there. Like I said. So, right, and then the gods, to humble those of the gods. Little g, it says. So, rise up, O God of gods. So we see, where is that? Isaiah 10 is one of the places, I think. I may have the wrong one. And maybe it's in the The Kings? No, it's Deuteronomy. Maybe it's Deuteronomy 10. Yeah. Maybe that's where it is. The Lord of Lords, and you'll get 136 over 113. So 113 is him, Joshua, and 136 is her, the new branch, the new Zion. So where was I? Rise up, O God of gods, and raise yourself in power, O Queen of kings, or Queen of queens. Let all the sons of darkness scatter from before you. Let the light of your majesty shine forever upon gods and men, as a fire burning in the dark places of the damned. Burning in the dark places of the damned. Let it burn the damned of Sheol. So, I kind of have this idea that she can choose to resurrect you or not. And that means your body out of the ground. And when she sets the world on fire, she can leave you in the grave. You will be a disembodied spirit. From what I understand, everything's black when you're in that when you're disembodied and don't have a body. From what I understand, it would be a horrible end. So let it burn the damned of Sheol, right? As an eternal burning among the transgressors, blank in all the appointed times of eternity. They shall repeat all the thanksgiving hymns of battle there, and then return to their camps, blank. For it is a time of distress for Israel. So we saw that time of distress in Isaiah 22, at least one of their many times. A fixed game of battle against all the nations. It's a fixed game of battle. The purpose of God is eternal redemption, but annihilation for all nations of wickedness. Any that don't turn to her covenant of truth, you will be destroyed, according to this. All those prepared for battle shall set out and camp. Oh, I hate this. Sorry. It makes me look like I'm this wide. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, I apologize. I just realized I was sitting a long ways back, and this sweater ain't helping me. Sorry. I gotta get moving. So where was I? A fixed game of battle against all the nations. The purpose of God is eternal redemption by annihilation for all nations of wickedness. All those prepared for battle shall set out and camp opposite the king of the Kittim and all forces of Belial. Okay, so all those prepared for battle. So it's telling you got to be prepared. So in this crucible, we're actually forming our own battle weapons, is what it looks like. And that's why it's only when she who is like God is prepared to stand up for her children, she has retrieved the truth. That means her sword. And so it has the idea of developing your own weapon, is what it has this idea of. And so if you've sharpened your word in here, where you're going to be able to do so, you're going to be prepared to set out in battle. So all those prepared for battle shall set out and carry opposite the king of Kittim and all the forces of Belial that are assembled with him for a day of vengeance by the what? Sword of God, the word. If you've got the word, the truth of the true covenant, then you're going to be armed for battle. You're not going to go out and be slaughtered. Which under this religious lie that they're teaching us, they are prepping you for slaughter out there. That's what they're prepping you for. Yeah, that's what it is. Cause them to fly. So when you turn to God, return, and she cleanses you for her truth. She's cleansing us with the truth. We're also armed for battle. Right, we're prepared for the battle that's going to come. So the final battle, the first engagement. Wow, I got a long ways to go. Then the chief priestesses shall stand, and with her sisters, the priestesses, Levites, and all the women of the army. She shall read aloud the prayer for the appointed time of battle, as it is written in the book of Seraph. I should know what that is. I don't know what the next word is. Etu? the rule of her time. That's in brackets. Including all the words of their thanksgiving. Then she shall form there all the battle lines as written in the book of the war. Then the priestesses, appointed for the time of vengeance by all her sisters, shall walk about and encourage them for the battle. And she shall say in response, be strong and courageous as warriors, dear daughters. Fear not, nor be encouraged or discouraged. Please don't be discouraged. Be encouraged. All right? Fear not, nor be discouraged. And let not your heart be faint. Do not panic, neither be alarmed because of them. So the them here I have Isaiah 28, disannulling the covenant. This is what they're doing here. So do not turn back nor flee from them. She tells us, don't flee. Just like she told Jeremiah. She says, don't fear them. Don't you dare fear them. I am with you. Don't let your countenance fall in front of them. Don't fear them. You know? And she says, you know, make your mind strong. Make your heart strong. Your hands strong. Your knees strong. I'm with you. Don't fear them. Don't back down. Their lie don't make an ounce of sense. Number one. No, I'm with you. So, fools love their foolishness. Don't worry, we're just going to take care of that. So, do not turn back nor flee from them. Fear not nor be discouraged, and let not your heart be faint. Do not panic nor be alarmed because of them. Do not turn back nor flee from them, for they are a wicked congregation. Possibly we're looking at the harlot or the men who took over from them. All their deeds are in darkness. It is their desire. They have established all their refuge in a lie. That's right. Their strength is as smoke that vanishes, and all their vast assembly is as chaff which blows away. That's when we beat the mountain of liars who say there are rulers who are akin to he-goats who climb to the top, kicked us off, said, don't belong to you. It says they're going to beat that mountain small into chaff, and it's going to blow away in the wind, and then she's going to bring forth her own capstone. And you find that in Zechariah 4 in reference. You also find it in an allegorical reference in Daniel 2, when the stone that is cut out without hands will smash the toes on the idol. That's right, of an image of a man as your king and your Lord and your God. He's not. For they are wicked congregation. Their deeds are in darkness. It is their desire. They have established all their refuge in a lie. Yeah. Their strength is as smoke that vanishes, and it will. And all their vast assembly is as chaff which blows away. Their lie don't make sense. Blank, desolation, and shall not be found. Every creature of greed shall wither quickly away like a flower at harvest time. Blank. Come, strengthen yourselves for the battle of God. For this day is an appointed time of battle, for God is against all the nations. Blank. Judgment upon all flesh. The God of Israel is raising her hand, not his, in her wondrous strength against all the spirits of wickedness. I am a female. I have my own hands. I have my own head. I don't wear his head on my body, and I don't have his hands. I am a strength unto myself, you see? So, it's her hand, her wondrous strength against all the spirits of wickedness. That's right. So blank mighty ones of the gods are girding themselves for battle, and the formations of the holy ones are readying themselves for a day of vengeance. Blank, the God of Israel, blank, to remove Belial, blank in his hell, blank until every source of, I put wicked desire, is come to an end. For the God of Israel has called out a sword, indeed, against all the nations, and by the holy ones of her people she will do mighty. So she's called out a word, and she has sharpened it. So she says, make sharp your word, your sword, because you're moving into another battle. You are. Unless we do it while we sleep, which is another possibility. It's curious that we sleep for 12 hours at night, or whatever it is, 8, 5, whatever. But that we have to sleep, you know. So there's something to that, right? Anyway. Blank mighty ones of the gods are girding themselves for battle, and the formations of the holy ones are readying themselves for a day of vengeance. Blank, the God of Israel, to remove blank, Belial, blank, in his hell. Okay, we read this. Called out a sword against all the nations, and by the holy ones of her people she will do mightily. They shall carry out all this rule on that day at the place where they stand, opposite the camps of Kittim. Then the priestesses shall blow for them the trumpets of remembrance. The gates of war shall open, and the infantry shall go out and stand in columns between the battle lines. I won't add any more. The priestesses shall blow for them a signal for the formation, and the columns shall deploy at the sound of the trumpets until each woman has taken her station. This is really tiny print. I'm surprised I can even read it. I really printed it off small. Then the priestesses shall blow for them a second signal, signs for confrontation, when they stand near the battle line of Kittim within throwing range. Each woman shall raise her hand with her weapon of war. Then the 6 priestesses shall blow on the trumpets of the slain, a sharp staccato note to direct the fighting. The Levites and all the people with cow horns shall blow a battle signal, a loud noise. As the sound goes forth, the infantry shall begin to bring down the slain of the Kittim, and all the people shall cease the signal. But the priestesses shall continue blowing on the trumpet of the slain, and the battle shall prevail against the Kittim. So this sounds a little bit like where they had to keep holding Moses' hands up in order for them to prevail. And when his hands come down, he didn't prevail. So we get a ritualistic overtone on everything that's going on, much like what you see in Hollywood. You see a lot of ritualistic crafting going on. That's what you see. The final battle, the second engagement. So when Belial prepares himself to assist the sons of darkness. So Belial, we realized, was another name really for Satan, Baal. Adam was Baal, your husband, who was the accuser, who is Satan, who took charge of her throne, is really what he did. And he daily accuses her in the heavens. We see him doing it in the garden. And so, when Belial prepares himself to assist the sons of darkness, and the slain among the infantry begin to fall by God's mysteries. What's the mysteries? Daughter Israel is God upon the earth. And to test by these mysteries all those appointed for battle. The priestesses shall blow the trumpets of assembly, so that another battle line might go forth as a battle reserve. And they shall take up position between the battle lines. For those employed in the battle, they shall blow a signal to return. Then the chief priestesses shall approach and stand before the battle line, and shall encourage their hearts by the wondrous might of God, and fortify their hands for her battle. So there we go. Now, and she shall say in response, Blessed is God, for she tests the hearts of her people in the crucible. There we go again, crucible. She's testing us where we're going to stand, where our lot is, that we're going to stand. And not blank have your slain blank. For you have obeyed from of old the mysteries of God. Now as for you, take courage and stand in the gap. So where did we find the gap opened up, right? We found the daughters flowing through, the daughters of Israel from the north kingdom, would flow through the wall, the gates of David, and they would flow like a living water into that temple, and there they would teaching the laws of her mother. Now in the next video that is to come, that is explained, okay? So I'm not going to put a lot of time explaining it here, because it's already been explained in the next video that is to come. Okay, so take up, so they're going to stand in the gap, right? And that is these daughters, these holy ones, the key of David, reborn, right? So do not fear when God strengthens blank hand, and she shall appoint their retribution with burning blank, those tested by the crucible. She shall sharpen the implements of war, and she does this for each one of her daughters, and they shall not become blunt, they don't, until all the nations of wickedness come to an end. That's right. You have to keep, you have to keep, gnashing away, in a sense, with the truth. Much like we're told he did with his lies. He developed for himself a lying sword, in a sense. And it came against her to gnash upon her and take the spirit of her covenant out of the land. So this is what is kind of in context. And so your sword, your word, won't become blunt until all the nations of wickedness have come to an end. You will chase them till there's none left. But as for you, remember the judgment of Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, by whose judgment God showed herself holy before all the people. But Eleazar and Ithamar she preserved for herself for an eternal covenant of priesthood. So I think that's the one army. That's with Joshua. I think that's what, I don't know. There's ways of looking at it. Anyway, we're long. I got to get moving. But as for you, take courage and do not fear them, for their end is empty and their desire is for the void. I got sick desire. It's all the same. Their support is without strength, and they do not know that from the God of Israel is all that is and that will be. She blank in all which exists for eternity. She created, I think. She created in all which exists for eternity. Today is her appointed time to subdue and to humiliate the prince of the realm of wickedness. Adam, who was Satan the accuser. That's your prince. She will send eternal support to the company of her redeemed by the power of the majestic angel of the authority of its daughter Israel. By eternal light, she, Ariel, I think, possibly, Ariel, they're one and the same, shall joyfully light up. So Uriel, it means light of God. Ariel is lioness of God. So you sort of see a twofold nature to this presence of God. And it's spoken of in Micah as a lioness, in other parts as a bright light, as a fire. So we do see these two kind of come together in one unified idea. So light up the covenant of Israel, peace and blessing for the lot of God. Look at that. Let's read that again. By eternal light, she, Uriel, shall joyfully light up the covenant of Israel, peace and blessing for the lot of God. So we said the daughters of Israel were known as God standing on earth. So that makes sense there. Blessing for the lot of God, to exalt the authority of Ariel, or the daughter of Israel, among the lords. That's a little L, that's 113, right? And it's another name for husband. 113 means a master, a lord. Yeah. Little L, 113. It means just a man, is what it means. Among the Lord, and the dominion of Israel among all flesh. Righteousness shall rejoice on high, and all daughters of her truth shall rejoice in eternal knowledge. But as for you, O daughters of his covenant, O sons of his covenant, O daughters of her covenant, take her. Yeah, this confused me the first time I read it. But as for you, O daughters of her covenant, take courage in God's crucible, until she shall wave her hand and complete her fiery trials, her mysteries concerning your existence. After these words, the priestesses shall blow for them a signal to form the division of the battle line. The columns shall be deployed at the sound of the trumpets until each woman has taken her station. Then the priest shall blow another signal on the trumpet, signs for confrontation. When the priestesses shall blow. When the infantry has approached the battle line of Kittim, within throwing range, each woman shall raise her hand with her weapon, and then the priestesses shall blow on the trumpet of the slain, and the Levites and all the people with cow horns shall sound a signal for battle. The infantry shall attack the army of Kittim, and as the sound of the signal goes forth, they shall begin to bring down their slain. Then all the people shall still the sound of the signal, while the priestesses continuously blow on the trumpets of the slain, and the battle prevails against the Kittim, and the troops of Belial are defeated before them. Thus the third lot, blank, to fall, slain, blank. So, then it says here in a little note, it says the final battle, the 4th, 5th, and 6th engagements. There are nothing of these engagements that have been preserved, okay? So there's nothing to read on them. So the final battle is the 7th engagement. So, and in the 7th blank, I would say battle should be there, but maybe not. When the great hand of God, we know who the hand of God is, shall be lifted up against Belial and against all the forces of his dominion for an eternal slaughter, blank, and the shout of the holy ones when they pursue Assyria. Now we stick Assyria in there, but remember prophecy is stacked. So this is your typical, bad guy. This is what they said it meant in the very first page. It would have the idea of a, what is the word? Your archetypical bad guy is what they called it. So that's what we're looking at, an archetypical bad guy. Then the sons of Japheth shall fall, never to rise again, and the Kittim shall be crushed without remnant and survivor. So the God of Israel shall raise her hand against the whole multitude of Belial. At that time the priestesses shall sound a signal on the 6th trumpet of remembrance, and all the battle formation shall be gathered to them and divide against all the camps of Kittim. So blank completely destroy them. And when the sun hastens to set on that day, S-U-N, the sun, the chief priestesses and the Levites, so the chief priestesses and the priests, so the priestesses, and the Levites who are with her, and the chiefs of the battle lines, and the women of the army shall bless the God of Israel there. They shall say in response, blessed is your name, O God of gods, 136 over 113, or 136 over 136, I don't know. For you have done wondrous things for your people, and have kept your covenant for us from of old. Many times you have opened the gates of salvation for us for the sake of your covenant, and you provided for our affliction in accord with your goodness towards us. You, O God of righteousness, have acted for the sake of your name. So ceremony after the final battle. Then they shall gather in the camp that night for rest until the morning, and in the morning they shall come to the place of the battle line, where the mighty men of the Kittim fell, as well as the multitude of Assyria, and the forces of all the nations that were assembled unto them, to see whether the multitude of slain are dead, with none to bury those who fell there by the sword of God. And the high priestesses shall approach there with her deputy, her sisters, the priestesses, and the Levites, with the leader of the battle, and all the chiefs of the battle lines and their officers blank together. When they stand before the slain of Kittim, they shall praise the God of Israel, and they shall say in response, blank, to God Most High. Praise, I would say. Peace, praise to the God Most High, and blank. Thanksgiving for final victory, blank. You have done wonders upon wonders with us, but from of old there has been nothing like it, for you have known our appointed time, the day of the Lord. Today your power is shined for us, and you have shown us the hand of your mercies with us in eternal redemption, in order to remove the dominion of the enemy, that's right, the liar in our midst who's playing God, that it might be no more the hand of your strength. In battle you shall show yourself strong, there's that word strong, that's your she-goats, against our enemies, because your she-goat is strong. It has it in brackets, it means strong. Yourself strong against our enemies for an absolute slaughter. Now the day is pressing down upon us to pursue their multitudes, for you blank and the heart of warriors. You have broken so that no one is able to stand. Yours is the might, and the battle is in your hand, and there is no God like you. Blank your blank, and the appointed times of your will, and reprisal blank your enemies, and you will cut off from blank is blank. And we shall direct our contempt at kings, blank, derision and disdain at mighty men, for our majestic one is holy. The queen, not king, the queen of glory is with us, and the host of her spirits is with our steps. She is finally with us. Our God is with us finally when we determine to return back to her and her ways and not keep following the idol of Baal, which is Jesus in the land, not Joshua, Jesus. So our horsewomen, not horsemen, as the clouds and as the mist covering the earth, as a steady downpour shedding judgment on all her offspring. Rise up, O hero, take your captives, O glorious one, and take your plunder. O you who do valiantly, lay your hand upon the neck of your enemies. Okay, so we were there. And your foot upon the backs of the slain. Crush the nations, your adversaries. So this is a repeat. O Zion, rejoice greatly and rejoice. The wealth of the nations might be brought to you, and their kings shall serve you. All they that oppressed you shall bow down to you, and they shall lick the dust of your heels. O daughters of my people, burst out with a voice of joy. There we go. It's daughters is there. I'm not imposing that. Adorn yourself with ornaments of glory and rule over the kingdom of the blank, your blank, and Israel for an eternal dominion. It always was her. Oh, there we go. That's the last page. I'm sorry that was a pathetic read. But you know what? There is stuff in there. There is stuff to be had. I do think the sharpening of your sword, that's the great allegory that we should take away from this. You want to be prepared for battle. You don't want a dull sword because it's not going to make it. You want something prepared that you've studied, you've spent time. I know time is a destroyer, because we say, well, I don't have the time. I can't get the time. And I know that that's true. I know that's so true. I've been put in a very, unique position in that I gave the time that I needed to put this together, and the Spirit was with me, leading me in pathways that I hadn't known. And I would have never took the branch that I eventually took, had it not been for the fact that the Spirit had to have been with me, teaching me these truths and causing me to develop weapons that I never knew I had or would have, and to sharpen them and to be, a craftswoman. And I know that that's the allegory that we should be taking away, that we should be sharpening our word in this realm to make our sword sharp in the next one, for the next one. I mean, we are looking at a three, heaven is described in three parts. The first heaven, second heaven, third heaven. And the second heaven is the battle for the heart, right? He exalts the harlot. And as such, the harlot gives him dominion and power. And to rule in this horrible beast system, he developed the beast system. And again, we'll look at that in the next video. I need to elaborate in some parts. I did need to elaborate a bit more than what I did in some parts, and I failed to do that. I may make a collection of those and just stick them in a short, brief video where I feel that I need to hit harder than what I did. And at times I was listening to the video while I was laying down, and I was like, at first I was like, I can't post that. I got to remake that video. I got to. And then as I kept listening to it, I was like, no, I can't remake, because there's no way I'll say that stuff. So, and then there was parts I'd hit, and I'd say, well, I hit it right, but I just didn't quite say it in the right way. And I needed to emphasize, like I said, these particular parts. So I think I could make a 20-30 minute video highlighting those parts just to add to that. I'm not sure whether I'll actually do that or not, because I do feel done. You know, I had to drag myself up to do this video. I didn't feel like doing it, but even though it's not very well, I do think it's worth some effort, you know, to try to show you what the God of Heaven has shown us. And the next video will be my final video, hopefully, at that time. Unless I choose to tag on a little, you know, what do they call it? Addendum, whatever they call it. You know, a few notes at the bottom of this note. Long note, long study, because it is 2 hours and 50 minutes. And, but once it's posted, you know, I have to take it for granted that we have the ability to reason. And when I say things, maybe I don't emphasize them, but that you have the ability to take that away. The Spirit's going to shape that. She's already been shaping you. You know, further that understanding for yourself. You know, she says fools love foolishness. Well, we're not fools, right? So if we're not a fool for the foolishness, then we're going to be for the truth. And she's going to really help shape that truth within each one of us that she has selected for this great battle. I believe that's to come. We're being shaped in this crucible. And we are sharpening our word of truth. We are sharpening our swords for the next battle that is to come in the second heaven. So anyway, I thank all for watching. I hope I said everything I wanted to say. Sorry, it's a little muddled, but that's okay. I thank you all for watching. I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. And I do hope you all have a really nice day. And thanks again.